seminar on budget 2022, which was announced by our SM on the 1st of February. The budget as such has not been up to our expectation as far as nothing has gone into a pocket directly, but that we will all know after our experts over here speak. But the budget has shown us a way for the next 25 years. What our madam has said is that the 75th year to the century. So it is showing us big dreams and big figures. And I think it is on our part that we have to fit into that and grow. So we are very fortunate today that we are having a physical meeting after a very long time. Last year we did not have one. So we have with us for direct taxes, Mr. Ravi Mulchandani, who has been associated with TSSIA for a very long time. He is with SOK, Sanghvi, Oturkar and Kelkar company. He is our CA also and an expert on direct taxes. Mr. Sanjay, Advocate Sanjay Dwivedi is again associated with us for a very long time. In fact, during the GST period, if you people were there, he has written a book on GST and we have had many programs and seminars on GST. So I welcome both of you, sir, and I welcome all of you. I request Mr. Sandeep to speak a few words and then we can start with the discussion. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think the budget this time is more of a continuity budget. Very few changes as we see. But sometimes, as a layman, we see that nothing is changed. But sometimes you see the fine print. Sometimes, they have made a lot of changes. But we always have this. Today, we suddenly put this meeting on the Zoom now. So people are watching us on the Zoom. So I mean, people have not been able to come because of that. But as far as our MSM is concerned, we had given some suggestions to the government, out of which two have come through. One is to extension of the CGT MSc scheme and also the ECGLS scheme. But we had asked for some interest subvention to continue and all. It has never happened. MSME, I think, not much of a push has seen, except for some e-bills now will be there for all the government contracts and all. They can get their payment within 10 days, at least 75% payment in 10 days. And all such things are there. But as we see, as the budget is more of infrastructure, investment, and government think that ultimately the infrastructure investment will bring up the economy all the way from employment to consumer spending and to get more money in the hands of people. So let us hear from the experts now as to what are the changes in direct and indirect taxes, which probably we have not heard, and they have done all this basic work for that. So may I request first we start with direct tax?
Yeah.
So may I request Mulchandani to start?
Yes.
And you want to have the question answer at the end? We can have that. We don't know how the Zoom people, how do we manage for question answer?
They will put it on the chat.
Okay.
We should go there.
No, but you can still tell us.
He doesn't have a presentation.
Support रहेगा ना मुझे. Direct test को indirect test का support लगता है.
Okay, I'll support you indirectly.
Respected office bearers of Thane Small Scale Industry Association, my fellow learned speaker, Advocate Sanjay Dwivedi ji, the hard-working members of industry, and the listeners and viewers on Zoom. As Madam has told that the country has entered into an Amrit Kal for the year from 75th year to 100th year, and to certain extent roadmap has been shown that what government will do and what is expected from the people. And yes, directly, as we say, directly we are not getting, but as it happens, if someone says my tax should have been saved by 5,000 rupees. But if my income increases by 50,000, what I will prefer? I prefer, yes, let my income increase by 50,000, let my tax also increase on that by 5,000 rupees. So I will be getting net 45,000 rupees. So that is the philosophy behind what directly what we are seeing, what I read. I'm not an expert, an economic expert on economy, but what I see, that is the philosophy. And of late, from last 2-3 years, the tax rates have been saturated, already saturated. Beyond this, you compare with other economies, still India's tax rates are on a lower level as compared to other countries. If I'm not talking about developed countries, their tax rates are definitely much higher than us. The countries like India, tax rates are moderate. So now the first is regarding tax rates applicable for financial year 20 to 23. For next year, no changes are proposed in tax rates for financial year 20 to 23 as compared with 21-22 what will be paying. But only there is changes in applicability of surcharge in some cases. For cooperative societies, earlier the surcharge was, if their income was exceeding 1 crore, surcharge was flat 12%. But now, because in corporate, the surcharge is in, for companies, surcharge is at 2 level. If my income is at between 1 crore and 10 crore, surcharge is 10%, and income is above 10 crore, then surcharge is 12%. So same parity, cooperative societies have been brought on parity with corporate sector, that if income is between 1 crore and 10 crore, surcharge will be 7%, and if income is above 10 crore, surcharge will be 12%. Then in case of long-term capital gains, now surcharge, as we know, for individuals and HUF, the maximum surcharge is 27% if my income exceeds 5 crore rupees. So, but for dividends and long-term capital gains on shares and securities, the surcharge was maximum 15%, irrespective of my income. But this only long-term capital gain on shares and securities was subject to 15% surcharge. So now that they have also said that the surcharge in case of all long-term capital gains will be maximum 15%. So that also, if there is a long-term capital gain on immovable property sale. So earlier, if the income, it depend on the income. If the income is between 2 crore and 5 crore, surcharge was different. If income was above 5 crore, surcharge was different. So, but now on those long-term capital gains also will be surcharge will be maximum 15%. Now, then in case of association of persons, joint ventures, where two companies are members, only two companies are member. Earlier surcharge was being at 27% was levied. So now they have said keep, if in an association of persons, all the members are company, then rate of surcharge shall not exceed 15%. So that is also an, so they have tried to rationalize the surcharge levied on different taxpayers. Then exemption of amount received for medical treatment and on account of death due to COVID-19. So in a press statement only in June 21 only, they have come out with a press state, with an announcement that if any employee is receiving any reimbursement of expenses from employer for COVID treatment, that will not be considered as perquisite in the hands of employee. Otherwise, if an employee, not in normal case, if an employee's medical expenses are borne by employer, other than at a facility which is approved for the section 17, it was considered as an perquisite in the hands of employee, though it was entire reimbursement. But for COVID, they have not put that condition that treatment has to be in a specified hospital. Any expenditure incurred on medical reimbursements that include that might include hospitalization, that might not include hospitalization. So that modalities, they will, government will be coming with the conditions to be notified. That conditions they will notify, and if that reimbursement is there, so that it will not be considered perquisite in the hands of employee.
Sorry, this is mandated or from next year?
No, it is from assess. It is yeah. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. just I will answer that only. COVID has started in January 2020. So government has considered that and they have made it applicable from assessment year 2020-21, which will cover the period from January 20 onwards.
Because next year fiscal COVID only.
No, so that's why I was that was sensitive. It is covered from because it started in January 20. People's treatment might have started in that year only. So this is regarding reimbursement of medical expenses to an employee by employer. But it can happen that I'm not an employee and I cannot bear the medical expenses also. So some other persons are supporting me for my medical expenses. Otherwise, non-COVID, if my medical expenses are borne by some non-relative, that becomes my income. But for COVID-19 treatment, they have brought a specific provision that if expenses of a particular person of COVID treatment are reimbursed by some other person also, so that also will not be considered as income.
Preventive also there, somebody getting vaccine. A trust is organizing, company is
Yeah,
organizing.
yeah. See, vaccine, the cost is very minimal. No, the otherwise this all those this expenses that up to 50,000. Otherwise, it was also not taxable. So vaccine is already will get covered into that 50,000 limit. Okay. If someone sponsors my vaccination for 1,000 rupees, so 1,000 is less than 50,000. Otherwise, also it will not be taxable. So for each person, it is less than 150,000 rupees. Yes, yes.
Company no.
We are talking of exemption to the person.
To the receiving person. To the receiving person.
Not for
No, the com-
only for treatment.
No, that was preventive means see, vaccination is very minimal cost. Mainly is the treatment cost. So their government trust is the medical treatment because hospital bills.
Must be inquiring from the company's perspective.
company.
If company is paying
The company
maybe
is
5 lakh
paying,
rupees.
they are organized.
No, for no.
Sir,
For
we
that.
keep in the end.
Yeah.
Program करके रखो. नहीं तो फिर वो चालू बंद ऐसा होगा.
Then it is also proposed that on medical treatment, but also it is happened because of death. The family members or employers have given compensation to the employees also. So that too also, if the compensation is paid by an employer to employee or family of employee, there is no limit. Any compensation which employer gives, that will not be taxable in the hands of the family members of the deceased employee. But and there are certain other who are not employee and their employer also cannot support them, so they are getting compensation from various trusts also, various individual persons also. So for them limit of 10 lakhs is there. Suppose Mr. A is there, he is not an employee of any company or he is employee, but his employer has given him 15 lakh rupees. So that 15 lakhs will be exempt, but he is getting from a trust also 8 lakh rupees. So that 8 lakhs also from a non-employer also, if I'm getting, that will not be subject to tax. Had it not been this provision, all this amount would have been taxable in the hands of recipients. So this is a very welcome measure. Then a very small thing, and it is concerned with state government employees, national pension systems, where the central employer was contributing to that. The central government employees were getting deduction for 14%, up to 14%, but state government employees were getting deduction at 10%. Their contribution up to 10% they are getting as a deduction for employers' contribution. So now both have been made equal. Even for state government employees, they will get deduction for contribution up to 14% made by their employer. And this also is amendment is from April 20, means for finance assessment year 2021, because it was in that year this provision was brought. Then condition of release of annuity to a disabled person. Section 80DD, this is also a welfare measure because to just give to some help to the persons who are disabled. At present in section 80DD, a person if he is incurring expenditure on a medical treatment of a dependent who is a not person of a different ability, and if he subscribes to a policy of life insurance or any other insurance, so that till the time he is alive, he contributes to the policy. But what if happens the person who is contributing, who is looking after that person, he himself is not there. So after that, the annuity and that is received by the disabled person. So in certain court decisions, the court asks government, what if that person, the disabled person, needs the annuity or lump sum payment before the death, before the death of that person? So earlier, only if I have a person has taken a policy for his son, so only after A dies, then only the insurance company will pay annuity to that person. So courts have requested government to please look into that. So that government has come out with the policy that even if not before death also, if some amount is withdrawn from that policy or annuity is received, that will not be subject to tax in the hands of the person who has taken the policy or in the hands of disabled person. So this is also an welcome measure. Then coming to clarification in respect of disallowance under section 14A in respect of any exempt income during an assessment year. This is also applicable to very few companies. Wherein companies now there is no, earlier in the companies dividend income was there, long-term capital gains were there which were exempt, but now all those are taxable. But in spite of that, if there is an exempt income in the books of accounts of who is maintaining books of accounts, and who is maintaining books of accounts, and otherwise I'm claiming some expenditure for my other business income and all. So earlier provision was that in respect of exempt income, certain expenses were disallowed. Otherwise, what people were doing, if I earned exempt income, that entire exempt income I was considering not taxable, and all expenses I was claiming against the taxable income. So there were certain decisions which says if in a particular year there is no exempt income, so there cannot be disallowances. So that has been tried to plug that loophole. Even if there is no exempt income in a particular year, still, and if you are holding assets which will give you exempt income, certain expenses, that mechanism is given, certain expenses still will be disallowed in the computation. To give an example, I'm holding tax-free bonds of 1 CR in my balance sheet. For some reason, no income has been received during the year, but and my business expenditures are also there, and I incurred, say, some expenditures there which is of that certain proportion is to be disallowed. In this, if I not receive the income, it was advised that there is no need to disallow any expenditure for this exempt income. So, but now, even if I not received any income on the exempt assets on which income is exempt, still certain expenses I will have to disallow in my computation. Then coming to certain provisions related to profits and gains of business or profession, it is an clarification on allowability of expenditure under section 37. Now, section 37 of the Income Tax Act says any expenditure which is revenue and is not non-personal expenses and expenditure which is incurred wholly and exclusively for the purpose of business shall be allowed as a deduction. There also in explanation they have given that if any expenditure incurred by an assessee for any purpose which is an offense or which is prohibited by law shall not be deemed to have been incurred for the purpose of business or profession, and no deduction or allowance shall be made in respect of such expenditure. So any expenditure which I'm incurring against the public policy, or if it is prohibited by law, that expenditure was not to be allowed. Now this amendment, if you read this amendment, so they have made more clarification. They have still made this very more clarity has been brought to this provision, and this provision is most will be affected will be pharmaceutical industries. And all the case laws for this also was of pharmaceutical industries and hospitals and diagnostic centers. I need not elaborate that why it was so, but in all those cases, those and all example or case laws all on these issues are all for that also. And the other was that we read in papers also the pharmaceutical industries in US, they have compounded their certain issues were there with their products and all for the quality or not maintaining good manufacturing practices and all. For that there were certain issues, so there they have accepted their fault and compounded their offenses and paid huge fines. That because company is located in India, so they were claiming that as a deduction. They said we are not violated any law in India, so that's why this expenditure is allowable. So this also they have said no, if it is an infringement of law, even if that penalty, that damages you have paid outside India for compounding of offenses outside India also, that will not be allowed as a deduction in India also. So that they have made it very clearly. And coming to that pharmaceutical industry, the pharmaceutical industries, because of the medical representatives and going to doctors and incurring expenses of their doctors' personal visit, foreign tours, all everything, what not expenditure they were incurring, and those were being debited to profit and loss account. So even Medical Council of India prohibits doctors from accepting such benefits from the pharmaceutical industries, hospitals, or diagnostic centers. So what the case law said, when medical, it is against the ethical practices prescribed by the Medical Council of India. That is an offense of law by the practitioners also. And even the pharmaceutical act also, that also their pharmaceutical companies are also prohibited from doing such things. So to club all this, expenditures, to deny this expenditure, it has been made very clear. He shall include and shall be deemed to always include the expenditure incurred by the assessee for any purpose which is an offense under or which is prohibited by any law for the time being in force in India or outside India, to provide any benefit or perquisite in whatever form to a person, whether or not carrying on a business or exercising a profession, and acceptance of such benefit or perquisite by such person is in violation of any law or rule or regulation or guidelines, as the case may be, for the time being in force, governing the conduct of such persons. Now here, not only pharmaceutical industry, there are other government, non-government agencies also, where the service rules, in certain service rules even prohibits me to accept a gift of 1,000 also. So there, when such kind of expenditure will come in scrutiny, they will ask to whom you have given. And many of the cases, people say we can't write the names on when we give the gifts at the time of festivals and all. We cannot write the name of the persons to whom we are giving gifts. So there, they should be prepared for the disallowance of such expenditure, because I'm not able to, and definitely nobody is going to give the names to whom I'm giving the gift. It's against the customary practice of writing the names of the persons to whom I have given gifts during Diwali and other festivals. Then clarification regarding treatment of cess and surcharge paid on income tax. Now, as we know, for the purpose of calculation of taxable income, definitely I cannot consider my income tax payment as deduction. Income tax payment I cannot consider as a deduction. So earlier income tax was there, surcharge was there, but subsequently in 2005 or year, cess also was introduced. Education cess, then now health and education cess, then higher education cess. Cess also was included. So somehow in the section, the tax, the definition of tax was not revised. The tax includes surcharge, it was there, but it was not there. Tax doesn't, cess was not included. So all the, in smaller, in Thane, the cess amount will be strong. But compare the case of a company where tax itself is 200 crores, 300 crores. Their cess amount is substantial. So they were claiming cess as a deduction. But cess, logically also, cess is part of my income tax only. When I say ki I have paid income tax this much, I said I have paid tax plus surcharge plus cess. So what they were claiming cess as a deduction. So now there were decisions both way in favor of assessee, against the assessee. Circulars were there, but certain courts were still giving decisions in favor of assessee. So to club that, so now they have specifically come that tax will include the amount of cess, and this amendment they have made retrospectively with effect from 1st April 2005. So whatever, see,
Penalty interest.
no, whatever cases are pending at various judicial cases are completed and they cannot be reopened and all, those are free. But if on this issue, if the case for any of these years is pending at any judicial forum, so definitely order will come. Immediately the act is passed. But act is passed. Immediately 1 or 2 months, that person will receive a order that I am rejecting your appeal or I am confirming the addition made by the assessing officer. So this is the this 2005 retrospective amendment, and if you read today's in news today, Revenue Secretary yesterday in press conference said it will generate a huge revenue for government only for one amendment. By one retrospective amendment, you will have a huge revenue. Revenue Secretary is saying so. Definitely, they might have calculated how many disputes are pending, where disputes are pending, what much amount they will be getting if this amendment comes in. Then clarification regarding deduction on payment of interest only on actual payment, that we always know the interest taken interest on loans taken from banks, financial institution, NBFCs is allowed only on the basis of payment. So if 31st March interest is outstanding, or say for some reasons for 3 months, 4 months interest is outstanding as on 31st March. If that interest I don't pay before the due date of filing of return, I cannot claim that interest as a deduction. So, but in corporates, what was happening because of the financial engineering and all, they have converted all this outstanding interest payment to debentures or of various other debt instruments. So they were contending that it's a constructive payment of interest, and again it's a constructive receipt of new debentures. So kindly consider as a payment, and courts were also allowing. So now that also they have said no. If any interest payable is converted to any other liability by which the payment of interest is deferred, that will not be considered as a payment, and that interest will be disallowed. So that and this will not happen in a small company. This might have happened in big companies where interest, and in many we read in papers, the interest of earlier loan plus interest of 50 crore have been converted into new debentures. So I'm just saying कि वो 50 crore जो पड़ा था पेपर में, आज पता पड़ा कि 50 crore डिसअलाउंस हो जाएगा, तो उसका टैक्स कितना आता है. So that is regarding that interest will be allowed on the actual payment only. Then reduction in alternate minimum tax in case of cooperative societies. This is also to bring the tax rate in parity with the corporate. In corporate now, minimum alternate MAT is at the rate of 15%. So in cooperative society is 18.5%. So that has also been brought to 15%. Then very few small amendments regarding the extension of the last date for commencement of manufacturing or production under section 115 BAB, that is for new manufacturing companies for which tax rate is 15%. Earlier they were expected to commence production by 31st March 2023. The company should have been incorporated after 1/10/2019 and should commence production by 31st March 2023. But because of 2 years of COVID, so this date has been registration same. Still today, if someone registers new manufacturing company and production is started by 31st March 2024, the tax rate is 15%. Tax rate is 15% only for such those manufacturing companies.
For all the new people who were registered, new companies, for that all it will be applicable.
Still that still today, if I register a new manufacturing company, just a minute, I'll just.
So next,
I think it takes
3 years.
3 years. and
3
10
years.
left.
3 years and 10 years left. 3 years and 10 years
You
left.
decide this year.
Yeah, that is up to my.
That was one of
my
the
only
all-
manufacturing. Yeah, only manufacturing, domestic manufacturing
If
companies.
the company is doomed within 3 years, second year or third year.
So where is the texture of
There is no
income?
question.
If there is no profit, there is no tax.
Does not arise.
See,
No income, no
technically,
tax.
first 2-3 years, company don't make money.
So, and
So that,
they are given a fair period of 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Within 10 years, 3 years you can choose. 3 continuous years. No? It cannot be first year, fifth year. No,
Continuity should be.
continuity should be there.
6, 7, 8.
Otherwise, people will manipulate the things. That's why. Then again, extension of date of incorporation for eligible startup for exemption. That too also, the last date was 31st March 2022. That is extended up to 31st March 23. This also because of new startup company also, if I register. There also I have got 100% exemption for 3 consecutive years out of 10 years. There 100% exemption is there. And but startups definitions are very stringent and conditions also very stringent. But who can comply with that, they are getting benefited. And provisions pertaining to bonus stripping and dividend stripping to be made applicable to securities and units. So earlier, for shares, there was a provision of bonus stripping and dividend stripping. What is bonus stripping and dividend stripping? That today, if I purchase a share, I know ki dividend I'll be getting, and after getting dividend, normally the share price comes down. So what people used to do, I'll purchase today at 100 rupees, I'll get dividend of 5 rupees or 10 rupees, share price will come to 95, I will sell that share at 95 rupees. So I'll suffer a loss of 5 rupees. That loss I will try to set off against my other gains. And bonus stripping also, immediately, whenever the bonus, I receive the bonus shares, immediately for a short period, the price of the share comes down. So people used to do that also. I will purchase share for 100 rupees, I will get 1-to-1 bonus. Then share price will come to 50. I'll sell the original 100 shares at 50 rupees. I'll say I have suffered loss of 50 rupees. That loss I'll try to set off against my other gains.
The company is doing buyback. That is also higher price. No, I have got a say 150. Buyback is 120.
So buyback is different.
That is something
Buyback is different. Buyback is different. So that it was known as dividend stripping and bonus stripping. So there was a provision that if I have received a dividend, I have purchased a share and dividend is there. And if I have sold the shares within a particular period, the loss suffered was not to be allowed. In case of dividend, also in case of bonus shares also. But unfortunately, this all were not applicable to other units of mutual fund. Earlier shares were that were not applicable to units of mutual funds and new instruments which have come. Real estate investment trust and alternate investment fund units were there. All those were not covered because these all were new financial instruments. And this section 94, they have forgotten to amend after all these new instruments have come. So people were mutual funds, the people were readily, every year we are saying that there is a bonus stripping or dividend stripping in mutual funds. But now that will stop. That too also been stopped in all units of mutual fund, all alternate investment funds units or REIT units, everywhere, all units, and they have said that it includes securities. So all securities, dividend stripping and bonus stripping, loss will not be allowed. So today's, if you see newspapers, or it was coming key derivatives. Earlier people derivatives loss they were trying to set off derivatives profit they were trying to set off against the loss in security in the cash segment. They say now that will not be allowed because that also they have covered in this one bonus strip, in this stripping they have covered. So today's only it was just the news came tickle. There will be a huge liability for the persons who are doing this swapping. Cash credits under section 68 of the act. This is a very very important to understand if I am taking unsecured loans in my books of accounts. For corporate entities, taking unsecured loans from others is quite difficult because it violates the company's act. But for non-corporates, if I am taking unsecured loans in my books of accounts, and earlier I used to give my scrutiny, I used to give loan confirmation letters from the person. That loan confirmation typically considers his PAN number, his acknowledgement copy, he signs, Aadhaar bhi de diya, wo bhi de diya. So yes, I have identified that person and transaction is genuine. I was saying the transaction was genuine. I was not supposed to prove the source of source. I have taken a loan of 5 lakh rupees from Mr. A. Mr. A has confirmed, yes, he has given me loan of 5 lakh rupees. So certain officers were not accepting, certain officers were accepting. But now, compulsorily, if in such a case come, Mr. A also has to prove to my assessing officer that he has sources, and this he has to explain that he has proper source to give loan to me. And if that officer is satisfied with the explanation of Mr. A, then only he will say कि yes, my loan is genuine in my books of accounts.
उसका scrutiny करके उसका पूरा scrutiny होगा.
No. See, because it was, I cannot speak on, and if you read they have used the word, I was surprised to read in the finance bill, the drafters have used the word entry provider.
Entry provider.
It is in finance bill. It might have happened in their discussions to entry provider, ऐसे करते entry provider, but that has come into the draft of finance bill. See, to curb the practice of entry provider. So message is loud and clear for that. So now, because and they have got database key, they know the addresses. I can tell them over. They know the addresses of particular locality. If the person's loan is from that person, they say 99.99%
Entry.
and they know, and because they have developed so much database, city wise, area wise, they know.
So
So
to say if that person fails to prove, that means they will say that you have taken the entry and you'll be taxed on that amount.
yes, and if it is cash credit under section 68,
No, but he may have taken cash from somebody else. Why should I be taxed?
that's the provision is there, no? Because everybody was taking that stand on me. No? How I can prove source of
Yes, sir.
other person?
Ah,
But that is
But
the
all
provision.
genuine cases will also suffer.
See, genuine cases will never suffer.
how-
Genuine cases will never suffer. See, okay, that is an never ending, but provision is there. Now the other person also satisfy the assessing officer to the person who has
Right, sir, but
taken
it is
loan.
not easy to satisfy.
genuine होएगा तो वो खुद taxpayer होएगा ही ना.
So who will be taxed? The person who is
I will be
taking the
taxed.
loan or
I will
the
be
individual?
taxed. I will be taxed because credit is in my books of accounts. Na?
But the cash is deposited by him.
हाँ, so he has to explain कहाँ से लाया cash. अगर वो ना cash वाला तो explain कर ही नहीं सकता है.
And why should not he be taxed?
Why he will be taxed? He has given you loan. हाँ, उसको वो करेगा कि तुमने cash कहाँ से लाया, तो तुम दिखाओ cash. वो तो बोलेगा मैंने income दिखाया है. See, all these are
Ifs and buts.
ifs and buts. So what I'm saying is कि the person who is taking the loan, he will be taxed. And if the income is cash credit under section 68, it is taxed at maximum marginal rate with surcharge also higher. I just don't recollect the surcharge amount. It's not that कि earlier cash credit हो गया ना, ठीक है ना, मेरा slab wise में आ जाता है income, according to slab you tax it. Now it is not that way. if the income is taxed under section 68 as a cash credit, directly it is taxed at 30% plus at a very higher rate of surcharge. Plus it has got a penalty provisions also very higher at the higher rate. It's not normal penalty. This penalties for section 68 cash credit is a higher penalty. We have seen in the orders, inadvertently that person, assessing officer has considered that amount as cash credit. 1 crore के cash credit के ऊपर 2 crore का tax credit निकाला उसने with penalties and all. So we have seen such orders and those such orders in our circulate हो जाते हैं without name. देखो ऐसे भी orders pass होते हैं. And these all are in faceless assessments, not in regular, because there we can explain and the person 99% they understand. In faceless just can't. So this is the cash credit people will have to vary if we are taking unsecured loans in our books of accounts. So we'll have to be very unsecured loans and not necessarily even if I'm taking an NBFC, if it's a reputed NBFC, it's okay. But if it's in some wayside finance company, which has got no much credentials, there also I need not to, and I have taken loan today. I have repaid the loan also, but my scrutiny comes after 3 years. And if I'm unable to get hold of that Tom, Dick and Harry finance company, NBFC, I will be in trouble. So all this cash credits you always tell to client, you maintain relations with that person even after repaying the loan. Even if you repaid him the loan, if you repaid the interest, everything, still you have to maintain relations with him.
If balance.
नहीं फिर तो देगा ही नहीं वो. If he doesn't gives you confirmation of proper documents, the loan will become your income. Coming to scheme for taxation of virtual digital assets. Virtual digital assets, it's an the popularly it is known as Bitcoin. It's not a virtual digital. Those are virtual digital assets. That's why they are not some Bitcoin, coin, currency. Those all these words they are not used. That's these are virtual digital assets. Yeah. So now as hype was also there in newspaper from last 2-3 months, Economic Times. So every day, no, not a single day, the Economic Times was without a news on cryptos. Without a news on crypto. So that hype was already created, and the exchanges also, the persons who have promoted new exchanges, they also lobbied hard with government key. Don't ban it, bring some regulation into that.
It has not been legalized, no?
No, that's why yesterday's FM statement is also there. The taxing a particular product, a particular transaction doesn't legitimize it. So for that, our team is working on that, whether to ban it or not. So yesterday's press conference, she was asked this question. So she gave a proper answer to that. By taxing, we are not legitimate this. So that team is working separately, whether to ban it or not. So now virtual digits I have given, that's background is given. Now it will be directly taxable will be the sale price of the virtual digital assets and the cost of acquisition of the digital asset. No other expenses will be allowed. So in effect, I cannot say that I am into the business of purchase and sale of virtual digital assets. Even if I say I'm into business of virtual digits, business of selling purchase of virtual digital assets, still the profit will be calculated as sale price of that virtual digital asset less cost of acquisition of my virtual digital asset. That will be my profit. On that I have to pay directly tax rate at the tax rate at 30%. 30%. And if I have suffered loss in my I've suffered loss, that loss cannot be set off against my any other income. Okay, this is as good as my speculation. If I'm doing intraday trading for share sale also, that speculation loss cannot be set off against my any other income, not against my capital gains also, capital gains from shares also, and it cannot be set off against any other income. Speculation loss on sale of shares, securities can be set off in next year if I carry against my speculation income only. Again, my speculation income also. Here, it is step further. if I suffered a loss in the sale and purchase of virtual digital assets, that loss even I cannot set off in next year. And I cannot, in this year, I have suffered the loss of say 5 lakhs rupees, suffered a loss. Next year, if I earned a profit of 10 lakh rupees on this, that against that 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs will not be set off. Again, next year, directly on 10 lakhs, I will have to. So if in a particular year, the provision as it is stands, it is against any principle, then the lobbyist have said, kindly make it par with speculative profit of shares. Share भी सकता है, ये भी सकता है. One said that ये भी सकता है, वो भी सकता है. So share speculative, when you are seeing intra speculation, so I want to earn or lose on the same day. That's why I am speculating on that. So that is also speculative. This is also speculative. There you are allowing the speculation loss to be set off against next year's speculation income. There, here also you allow it. But as the provision stands, I cannot set off the loss suffered in this asset against any other income, and that loss cannot be also set off against the same income in next year. Also, there is an TDS provision on transfer of virtual digital assets. So if I am purchasing from a resident any virtual digital asset, I have to deduct 1% while making payment, 1% TDS from that person.
But that is for an amount of, I think, some 50,000.
Yeah, it is 50,000 and 10,000. It's in two categories of persons are there. If I'm into business and profession, if I'm not into tax audit, then for me limit is 50,000. If I'm not into business, for me limit is 10,000 rupees. So if I'm not into business or profession, if I want to purchase a virtual digital asset for 15,000, I will have to deduct 1% TDS on that. Without any, there is no limit and all. So if I purchase for 5,000 from a one person in a year, I need not deduct TDS. But if I'm purchasing for 15,000 in two transactions from a single person, I'll have to deduct TDS of 1%. So that to capture the transactions of once the transactions are captured, TDS is not revenue generated. It is to capture the transactions in the system. And they also define the meaning of virtual digital asset. It's very, as it is a digital asset, the language is also very technical. So the technical person, but it is an, they have defined what is virtual digital asset. And also they have said that RBI will be coming with its own digital currency. So let's see when that digital currency comes, how it is compared with that.
I think they will get a good revenue out of this, because yesterday I was in the meeting with this person. So his customer 1 lakh ka 84 lakhs banaya, and he paid 30%. Before this law came on, he had paid off 30%. People are doing.
Yes, if I get a lottery, definitely
like
I'll pay the
that,
tax. I'll pay the tax. At least if I don't see, is
This
that
financial year,
whatever example you have given, that person has 1 lakh, 84 lakh, 87 lakhs kamaya, no? 87 ke upar 30% diye diya, to his balance 70% is very safe. But if we don't base that 30%, today for his profit he has paid 30%. Tomorrow his entire profit might go in tax, interest, and penalty. It's a very wise decision. If I earn some, which some of my luck or whatever I earn, I should pay 30%. At least 70% becomes very safe.
Right.
That way. Now, see, the provision is such that the government itself not sure. So in the section only they have taken powers with the board. The central government may notify, may come with clarifications and all, because they also, it's an evolving asset class. So just I was reading, the one person was saying in every generation there is an asset class where people earn. Earlier people used to purchase gold or land, some cheap land. That was, means you're saying आपके grandfather ने लिया था वो. Then you came, your father, you went into shares, derivatives and all. So now for millennial class, this is the asset class which from which will earn. So that was his interpretation of virtual digital assets. This every generation has the asset class from which I earn. Now, widening the scope of reporting by producers of cinematograph films or persons engaged in specified activities. This I just wanted to highlight because it covers earlier only the film producers were supposed to file a statement within 30 days from the end of the financial year regarding payments, whatever they have during the year, they are made to different persons. So this was to capture, yes, Alpura can immediately give the details. But now that category has been increased. Now it includes, see, all other are most related to film production, but one category is event management. So now event management can be any person. I can manage marriage, and I can have a conference. I can manage. So event management people have also been brought into specified activities. Event management, documentary production, production of programs for telecasting on television or over-the-top platforms or any other similar platform. So if we have seen some local in Thane, it also are, they are popular, very popular on YouTube. For YouTube also, and I was just thinking their organization, the person, only one person comes on YouTube, but they have a team of at least 20 persons. The weekly video comes of that one YouTuber, but the team is of 20 persons. Writers hai, photographers hai, sub hai. So now those youth, because there's any other similar platform also. OTT we know ki Netflix, Amazon Prime, everything is coming. But even on YouTube also, if I have got a team and I am a YouTuber, and if I'm incurring expenditure because I am producing the content to be hosted on those platforms. So even those YouTubers also will be required to file an annual statement immediately after the end of the financial year of whatever expenditure they have paid to this one. Now coming to provisions related to tax deduction at source and tax collection at source, we know ki last year only 200 section 206 AB and 206 CCA have been introduced, wherein if the person of whom I am deducting tax and I have to collect tax has not filed the returns for 2 years, then I have to deduct TDS at a higher rate. Earlier, provision was that the person to whom I'm making payment, he doesn't has the PAN number, then I have to deduct TDS at lower rate or TCS I have to collect at lower rate. Then last Finance Act 2021, they brought in a provision, if I have to make a payment and if the person to whom I have made the payment, he has not filed the returns for last 2 years. Now also, because already for this provision is applicable now also, now because for this assessment year, financial year 2021, assessment 21-22, the first due date of filing return is over. For individuals, for HUS, for smaller business, due date is over. So now if I have to deduct tax of that person, I have to see that person has filed the return of income for assessment year 21-22 and 2021. Suppose if I am making payment of interest to a person, is an individual person. So as on date, I should have after 31st December, on 1st January 2022, if I'm making payment, I should have a proof of filing of his return of income for assessment year 21-22 and assessment year 2021. Because for that first due date, the first 113 section 110 due date is already over on 31st of December. For corporates and all, due date is still there. Tax audit cases, due date is still there. So, but for individuals, due date is already over. So banks and all, even for if I am making payment or if I have to collect TCS also, I have to see that that person has, as on date, has filed the returns of income for assessment year 21-22 and 2021.
You have to ask him.
Yeah, no, there is an utility also. It is utility in the utility, but at times what we advise to collect, you see the utility. If an utility you file him a non-filer, just ask him that at times that might not be updated. He might have filed return yesterday only. So it takes around 15 days to that utility to get updated. So we say even banks are doing same thing. We advise some banks, so they say they see the utility. Those who are non-filers, they just contact those depositors and call for the acknowledgement. Now, but with effect from 1st April 2022, that situation is going to change. only 1 year if I have not filed return of income.
Anything you like?
If I have not filed the return of income for 1 year, TDS or TCS will have to be higher rate. So as on 1/4/2022, as on 1/4 today also, I should have assessment year 21-22 acknowledgement. I should have. As on 1/4/2022, earlier it was that if I not file the returns for both of the assessment years, then only it was so. Even if I file for 1 year, I was out of that provision. I was in the normal rate of TDS. But now with effect from 1/4/2002, only 1 year's requirement is there. So if as on 1/4/2022, if I'm deducting tax or I'm collecting tax from someone, I have to be sure that I have got acknowledgement as on date. If I have got acknowledgement of assessment year 2021, I am safe because he has filed return of income at least for 1 year. But from 1/4/2022, it is only dependent on the filing of return for 1 year. So I have to compulsory see that I have got income tax filing proof of all those persons whom I'm deducting tax or collecting of assessment year 21-22. Otherwise, TDS and TCS will have to be at a higher rate. Then TDS on sale of immovable property. When anybody purchases property, immovable property of 50 lakh rupees and more, 1% TDS provision is there. That was okay. But there is a stamp duty valuation also. Market rate is also there. So earlier this provision was there, but now as per new provision, if the stamp duty rate is more than the agreement value, TDS will have to be on the stamp duty rate. To give an example, if the actual consideration is for 55 lakh rupees and ready reckoner rate is 60 lakh rupees, so I'll have to deduct TDS at 1% on 60 lakh rupees. If both the values are less than 50 lakhs, then no TDS. If one of the value is above 50 lakhs, on the higher of the two amounts, I'll have to deduct TDS. This is the provision. Then TDS on benefit or perquisite of a business or profession. Now this new section is there. This is also very, it will have to be very carefully seen in my business. I am at times I'm giving non-monetary perquisites to my service providers or my associates. So there they say because as section 28, which is the charging section for business, it says whatever sales I get, whatever fees I get, that is definitely my income. But if certain non-monetary benefit or perquisites I'm getting, that is also my business or profession income. So that the recipient were never offering that for taxation. Now the onus is on the person who will be providing this benefit and perquisites. Now, if a company gives a gold coin to its consultant during the festival season above monetary value of 20,000, that 20,000 limit is in a year. Suppose if you're given a silver coin, a gold coin of 25,000 or 50,000, on that you have to deduct tax at source. On that, the person who is giving this non-monetary benefit perquisite, or if I am sponsoring a trip of my architect, I'm a builder, I'm sponsoring a trip of my architect to go to Singapore, to go to Europe, see the buildings, and try to have some features in my building also. I'm sponsoring. It's a very, for me, it's a very business, this one. So, but then that will be considered, you are giving non-monetary perquisite, non-monetary benefits. And it is very, at times become difficult to establish, I have sent him for my work. But he is not your employee. If he is my employee, then it's okay. But he is not my employee, then what? So all this kind of perquisites, there can be n number of examples for that. Just give the two examples. See, if that kind of non-monetary benefit of perquisites I'm giving to my service providers or associates, one of my employees, that will be subject to TDS, and I have to deduct TDS at, I think the rate I have written, or I think rate is also have 10% rate. It is 10% rate is there. It is 10% rate. So one will have to very carefully when I'm debiting such expenditure whether I should have an it. I'm giving not multi-purpose, but TDS also I'll have to take onus on me, and I cannot say ki, I will spend 2 lakhs on your trip, so kindly give me 20,000. I will pay your TDS. So no one will ask that. I have given you gold coin of 50,000. Give me 5,000. I have to pay your TDS. So that ultimately TDS burden also will be. Otherwise, at the time of scrutiny, they will ask whatever gifts and presents you have given, to whom you have given. And from that, they will make out the list.
It will be an income to the in the hands of the person who has got it also.
Yeah, obviously. If I'm getting gold coin, it will be my income. But if I no, I have to show as my business income. But if you have spent on my travel, I'll say yes, I have received, and it is my expenditure also.
Oh.
If I'm an architect, I'm going. Yes, he has sponsored me. So in that case, we'll say you pay him by check and let him pay the whatever expenditure you pay him by check, deduct TDS, and let him pay directly to the travel company or whosoever. Like directly, let him pay. So for him, for me also, it will be plain deduction of professional fees. For him also, professional fee received, and he has spent on that. But what
TDS
about
will become an income?
Huh?
TDS will become an income.
नहीं TDS तो वैसा I'll get credit ना.
हाँ ठीक है. That is how I because my income.
I'll jack up that ना. उसको. So that is okay. That is the mechanism is there.
ये एक है अभी ये जो कंपनी स्पेशली द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ ये लोग परचेज करते हैं समझो हमसे करते हैं और वो जर्मनी में उसको इंस्पेक्शन के लिए नहीं तो ऐसा टूर के लिए गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर्स को कंपनी स्पॉन्सर करते हैं तो उनको भी ये करना
नहीं see inspection and all is different thing.
But it is like it's basically like a gift only उनको उधर घुमा के लाते हैं.
Yeah, that is
So
that
that
is
also will be
yes,
important, isn't it?
yes. No, but here the other person should be my business associate. Other person should be my business associate with whom I have a business. That is very clear. The recipient also should be doing some business or profession, and that though is against the prohibit that expenditure will not be allowed itself. Because that comes under section 37. I'm not supposed to sponsor a trip of some person who is not supposed to have that hospitality from me. As per their code of conduct, as per their service rules. Come to last provision for filing of updated return. This also is a very lengthy provision. I'll just in short I will tell you. Earlier we are filing an original return. Then if original return due date has gone, I can file a belated return. Means again I have given some time. And if both the returns I find some inconsistency, I can file a revised return also in the same year. That dates are given. But what happens if that all the dates have gone, original return date has gone, belated return date has gone, and revised return date has gone, and it has jumped the next financial year. And I find something that I should have offered. Genuinely, I have left out, or there are certain decisions which have come, which have earlier I have taken an adventurous route. कि नहीं ये taxable नहीं है. I know everything is on my paper, but I have taken an adventurous view. This income is not taxable or this expenditure is allowable. But then now I want earlier there were certain instances where the assessee and in certain cases what we have advised हो गया ना नहीं हो गया तो you at least pay the tax. So what they have done the differential tax in terms of tax भर के रख दिया है. So at any time the scrutiny comes will say कि we have paid the tax. But now there is a provision, they have made a provision in the act itself that within 2 years from the end of the assessment year, suppose this is assessment year 21-22 is ending, but this is applicable from next year. So within 24 months from the end of the assessment year, if I want to update my return, I can update my return, but that comes with a cost. Suppose if my updated return, I am disclosing an additional income of 10 lakh rupees. On that 10 lakh rupees, tax comes to 3 lakh rupees. That tax and on that interest 1 lakh rupees comes. That 4 lakhs I will pay. But updated return, in that updated return, if I'm filing within 12 months, I'll have to pay 25% over and above 4 lakh rupees. Okay. So I'll explain. If I find that I should have offered an income of 10 lakh rupees was there, which I have not filed in the, I missed out in the original return because of some genuine, I was overconfident, or there were certain judicial decisions which allowed me, which forced me to take a decision. Ki nahi, we can take a chance. It will not be taxable, and ultimately also higher forum decisions will come in assessee's favor. But those decisions didn't came, and if it is detected in assessment, I might pay tax, interest, penalty, everything. So this is a midway. So I'm just giving an example. If my income that I have to offer an additional income of 10 lakhs in updated return, tax on that will be 3 lakh rupees. And definitely if I'm updating, so interest factor will be the 234 ABC, interest will be there. So interest is 1 lakh rupees. So total tax plus interest comes 4 lakh rupees. So if I'm filing updated return within 12 months from the end of the assessment year, I have to pay an additional tax of 25% of the total of tax and interest, tax surcharge, whatever. And if I'm filing the updated return between 12 months and 24 months, that additional tax is 50%. Okay. So no, it might be, so if such situation comes, people will evaluate. I'll do a cost benefit analysis. Everybody will be cost benefit analysis on आज ये कॉस्ट है, अगर नहीं करता हूं, अगर बाद में डिटेक्ट हो जाता है तो इसका ये कॉस्ट होगा. I'll compare, anybody will compare two costs. So if today's cost of that 2 lakhs plus 1 lakh plus 25 or 50% appears to me cheaper, and what will happen ki will come, see, now we are all AIS, AIR, everything is coming, annual information statement is coming. So many people might have forgotten to take that income in their return. So now there will be an opportunity, but still this comes with a very high cost of, it's a very high cost, 25% and 50% is a,
Like
you know,
a voluntary
25%. Huh?
Like a voluntary dispute.
Yeah. It's an voluntary disputer in perpetuity.
Can I update after getting 143 weeks?
No, those all I have written in that. Those I have written. There are under what circumstances I cannot file this. Even if I have updated once, I cannot update the same update return for the same assessment year. So once updated once only, for one assessment year, one only. Or in such cases also, in where survey has happened, where I have received the scrutiny notice also, assessment name, where even if I receive the scrutiny notice, I cannot take the benefit of it. Then I will become scrutiny nikla abhi, this will be detected, this will be detected to file the updated return. So I cannot do that. So there are host of exclusions, and it I have covered elaborately in this. So it is very elaborately written in that. So I wanted to cover other points also, but because of paucity of in note also I wanted to cover, because even if I'm not able to speak on full points, but certain points I was not able to cover. Only the persons who are also involved with charitable trust, for them certain good provision is also there, and certain this one. Just I'll very few which I couldn't cover in the note. I'll just say that now there are various compliances to be made under Income Tax Act, where my earlier, if I was not complying, my late fee was 100 rupees per day. That is under section penalty under section 272A. Now that has been increased from 100 rupees per day to 500 per day. So that will have to be very, if we those any notice come, if notice come, if I'm not complying with that notice, so that notice certain at times attracts a penalty of 100 rupees per day. And if I have forgotten for 1 month, earlier it was 3,000, now it was 15,000 rupees. So that one we have to be very sure that. Then for trust and institutions, an entire 3 hours, 4 hour sessions also will be less. There are so many amendments in the administration of trust, and to plug the misuse of trust funds for the related persons. it has been made very harsh provisions have been made. So one will have to be for that. I will at least we are in the process of preparing. Not at least I will share with the association, so you can share. So whosoever are dealing with the trust, I am on board or I am in society. We are involved with so many trusts. So at least I should be aware of the provisions related to trust. They have been very harsh and all we read ki in papers also with FCRA registration of so many thousand trusts have, because they have never bothered to comply with the law. We see in our client FCRA, there is no donation for last 10 years, but every year religiously FCRA return is filed. Just because sometimes comes, I should not be caught, I don't have FCRA donation. And it has happened in one case. 10 years, there was no FCRA donation. In 1 year itself, 150 lakhs for NRI came that I want to give donation of 50 lakh rupees. So it helped at that point of time. So the compliances, if are not made in the trust or our provisions are very penal, they have introduced penal provisions in that, and penal provisions equivalent to amount involved in the transaction. So yeah, so one will have to be very cautious while being in part of the trust. That also will have to be very cautious. The one good with notable point which they have brought in the trust case, that if any trust is having a property which comprises of temple, mosque, gurdwara, church, if it comprises, and if I received contributions for the repairs and renovation of that religious place. So at my option, it can be considered as a corpus of the trust. The benefit of corpus is that for corpus, not necessarily I should spend 85% in the same year. Corpus I can spend at per my discretion, but for that purpose. So, and there are related provisions to that. That is a very good provision, because in country, many religious places, and what happens in case of repairs and renovation, I received because of my outreach programs, I received the funds in a very short period. I received huge funds in a short period, but it is practically impossible to spend that person in next year or in next 5 years also. So all those trusts will take an benefit of this. They will say that this voluntary contributions which you have received for the repairs and renovations of our temple or religious places, this will consider as corpus, and that corpus will not be considered as normal taxation of trust doesn't apply to a corpus. Corpus donation is totally exempt from the taxation. No 85, I can spend anytime I want. So, but strict conditions are to be followed by those trusts. So this was a very notable point which in case of trust was there. Thank you very much for listening me. Thanks very much.
I thought it would be student 15 minutes.
There were so many things.
But you know how the professionals do it and how we benefit from
No, we
it.
benefit from
Any quick questions?
No, I
Otherwise,
think
I
you'll be waiting.
हा गुड इव्हनिंग बोलू शकतो आता
Yeah, I'll do that.
Then we'll have question answer later because
नहीं,
हो चालेल 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 येस
क्वेश्चन सर कर लीजिए, क्वेश्चन सर कर लीजिए,
अच्छा,
क्योंकि कंटिन्यूटी में ध्यान देना लोगों को।
क्या
ठीक है.
Any
ओके ओके
property, the seller is based in Singapore or foreign national, and the Indian citizen buys that property, then how much TDS is deducted? Property value of
no. Seller is
Singapore national.
he is an NRI. So that TDS will be under section 195. So the resident person will deduct TDS at 20% plus applicable surcharge and education
goes up
cess.
to 28 or 29%.
20, yeah, 20 point.
28.
No, actually surcharge अगर होगा तो it is
No, I just paid
28% के आसपास जाएगा।
28 नहीं 20.8 आता है
20.8
सेसी है भाई surcharge
अच्छा।
And then NRI does not have any PAN also, they are going to declaration, no PAN number.
you will have to apply for TAN, and then tax deduction account number he will have to apply, and then go with the permit.
No, you
NRI does not have a
NRI does
PAN.
not have a PAN.
The seller does not have a
The
PAN.
seller
number.
does not have a PAN.
Okay, seller doesn't have a PAN, so you'll have to apply for PAN and you'll get the PAN.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Otherwise, you will not get this refund. Huh?
how will you get the credit for that? And there is a provision for that also. NRI can apply to assessing officer in India,
Yes.
whereby filing the document and say, "Ki on my this transaction, tax rate is not 20.8, but it will come to 2 or 3%. So then the TDS, the purchaser will deduct TDS at that rate
They can reduce that TDS amount by taking permission from the.
from the assessing officer. And many and most of the NRIs do that only, because many people they sell and reinvest also. So they say in reinvestment there is no tax.
But there's always corruption there. Anybody else? Sir, I wanted to ask why chartered accountant should take up this matter of 2005, effective from 2005, that cess. Because
Reduction of cess.
anything which goes on 25 years, 15 years back,
See,
is something which has to be objected,
no.
whether it is cess or anything. It should be objected left, right, and center.
the companies will take up, na? But if you ask for that revenue secretary has taken, there is a huge revenue, and all big corporates have taken. I have filed. I have not in a single case have taken deduction of cess.
No.
I have not taken. I have not taken because though, and we also came to know in the decisions, but whenever we have taken deduction of cess as an expenditure, because it is calculated on my income tax only. So how it can be different than income tax?
Anybody from Zoom wants to?
Chat पर क्या है थोड़ी क्या है?
We have 37 people on Zoom. 38.
Yeah.
And clear.
38 participants.
ठीक है. We can share your this.
Yes,
you
yes,
will give
yes, I
us,
have
and
given for
whoever has
sharing
given the
only.
email, we will
I have given for
mail it.
sharing only.
Yeah, no, we used to initially we used to
We
distribute
print-
hard
yeah,
copies,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we
But we
email
can
it
send
to
it,
the
email it.
Aarti, see that it gets done tomorrow.
Laptop.
Yeah, so now we'll
I'll watch you on Zoom.
Fine.
I'm interested, but then what will?
Fine.
so thank you very much, Mr. Ravi Mulchandani,
Yes.
for your very nice presentation,
Yes.
and I think we have learned quite a lot of new things. And I think regarding the trust,
Oh,
if there's something relevant to TISA and this, you please let us know. On this points.
TISA doesn't comes under those
Under
kind
that-
of trust.
Okay.
I'm very, TISA doesn't comes under those kind of trust.
We are not trading it. We are not trading it.
Non-trading.
No. TISA is also trust. We have
It's a
got the
trust,
section under income tax. We are
Non-charitable.
registered 1011. no?
Yeah, so
But
that's
what I'm
why-
saying is TISA is not that kind of trust.
Not that kind of trust.
It's a
It's
trustworthy
a,
trust.
it's a,
Their trust is,
it's really a trust.
it's really a trust.
It's really a trust.
It's really a trust.
आवाज नहीं आ रहा है?
There is some network issue. We will get back immediately.
And presentation I have to share from here. Yeah, it is already there. मुझे enable कीजिए, sharing enable कीजिए. Host disabled participant screen sharing. I can't share. Okay, time लगेगा. Okay, I hope everyone can see me. And am I audible? Zoom per.
You are audible. You are audible, but not visible on Zoom.
Not visible. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I am visible. Yes.
Yeah.
And audible also.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll share the screen as soon as the system allows me. And
On the screen.
Yes.
and thank you, Ravi ji. अच्छा elaborate presentation था. और इनकम टैक्स में इतनी चीजें एक साथ में सुनने को मिली. That is very good. GST में there is only one small point जो इस बजट में है. बजट में GST के लिए नॉर्मली कोई स्कोप नहीं होना चाहिए because it always comes through the GST Council. But every year there is one or another thing which government introduces, and this year their focus is on further tightening the ITC, input tax credit. So अगर आप प्रोविजन देखेंगे तो आप बाद में सोचेंगे कि ITC लेना ही क्यों है. नहीं लेना चाहिए. आपको ऐसा लगने लगेगा. It appears कि गवर्नमेंट जैसे एक कंपटीशन हमसे कर रही है कंप्लायंस करने की कैपेसिटी से. अगर आप अपनी कैपेसिटी बढ़ाते हैं, आप बहुत ज्यादा अलर्ट हो जाते हैं, गवर्नमेंट कहती है अच्छा ठीक है मैं इससे भी हायर लेवल पर लेके जाता हूँ. गेम जैसे है कि नेक्स्ट लेवल पे जा रहे हैं, कहीं ना कहीं तो हारोगे. So that is how they are doing it now. Let us see. Yes, I can share now. Right. So what government now wants is that you should become a police for your vendor. If he is making a mistake, you have to point out. And irrespective of whether government officer catches hold of him or not, you will be liable. Now, how they are doing it, this is against the very concept of justice and the system that we have evolved over so many years. For example, अगर आज के 500, 600, 1000 साल पहले आप जाएंगे, तो गवर्नमेंट्स का रोल हमारी लाइफ में बहुत लिमिटेड था. अगर आपके घर पे कोई करता है तो आपको खुद तलवार लेकर के लड़ना पड़ता था. कोई आपसे चीटिंग करता है, आप उससे चीटिंग कर लो, आप निपट लो, आप अपने ग्रुप्स बना लो. Then slowly we evolved this concept of government. And government इस बात के लिए तैयार हो गई कि आपकी लड़ाई हम लड़ेंगे, आपसे हथियार रखवा लिए गए. Now you are not allowed to keep arms with yourself because there is a guarantee from the government that आपकी जगह पे हम लड़ाई लड़ेंगे आपके लिए. They don't do that different thing. But every case, criminal cases, every criminal case is fought in name of the government. You will find कि अगर एक accused है, so it is state of Maharashtra versus that accused. It is not the victim versus the accused. It is never like that. The prosecution means government. So we always hoped कि अगर हम पर अन्याय होगा तो हम गवर्नमेंट के पास जाएंगे and government will always be ready to support us. So I purchase goods. I purchase the goods along with an invoice. And I believe that the person will pay tax. Maybe I'm purchasing from Vijay Sales, Amazon, or somebody whom I can actually visit and settle the terms. Now that person doesn't pay the tax. And there are several layers. He uploads the details in GSTR1 and then doesn't pay. He doesn't upload in GSTR1. He uploads goods worth 10 crores in GSTR1 and pays tax only 5 crores. In all those situations, we believed that he has made a mistake. Government will be fair. Government will catch hold of the person who has made the mistake. Government says, no, we are not going to do this. You do this. So entire business community has to fight amongst itself and keep policing over each other. So if my supplier doesn't pay the tax, now there were several judgments in VAT era and even one judgment in GST era. Madras High Court said that if somebody has not paid the tax, it is duty of the government to first recover the tax from that person. This is not acceptable to government. So in this budget, they have made special focus only on this thing. So let us see the provisions. And jab GST आया, initially there was a thought that GSTR1 के सामने there will be another return called GSTR2. और GSTR2 में अगर उस पर्सन ने सामने वाले ने रिटर्न अपने रिटर्न में इनवॉइस मेरी इनवॉइस नहीं रिफ्लेक्ट की, then I'll be able to upload it. If he puts a wrong figure, I'll be able to correct it from here. And then onus will be on him to accept. And if he doesn't accept and later it is found wrong, penalties will be on him, not on me. Those things were there. And that is why there was section 38, which talked about GSTR 2. Then there was section 42 and 43, which spoke about matching, amending, accepting the details of the invoices. So now 42, 43 has been omitted from the statute. And 38 has been entirely rewritten. Now there will not be any system of GSTR 2. Probably Infosys ने हथियार डाल दिए. बेसिक बात ये है. ऐसा लग रहा है कि नहीं पॉसिबल नहीं. So what they are going to do? So एक provision by provision we will see, but it is everything is focused on one thing. So section 38 is now substituted. 42, 43, 43A is amended, omitted. 42 was about matching. 43 was also about matching. 42 was input tax credit, and 43 was output liability. And 43 provided a procedure of filing returns. GSTR 2, as I said, it is gone. Now, there is a new section 38. पहले section 38 जो था, that was about GSTR 2. Now it is not about GSTR 2. It is saying that आपके सामने वाले के GSTR में जो कुछ होगा वो आपके GSTR 2B में दिखाई देगा. That is what section 38 is all about. So no concept of matching, amending, etc., etc. Then apart from that, section 38 में उन्होंने दो शब्द डाल दिए कि गवर्नमेंट कंडीशंस और रेस्ट्रिक्शंस दोनों प्रिस्क्राइब कर सकती है. नाउ एक्ट में जब ये वर्ड डालते हैं, इसका मीनिंग ये होता है कि नेक्स्ट टाइम दे डोंट हैव टू गो टू पार्लियामेंट. Simply the board can issue a notification and do it. That is what prescribed means. It is to be prescribed through rules, and rules are made by the board. So it is a method of bypassing the parliament. So now they will prescribe conditions and restrictions. So GSTR 2B जब आपको दिखाई देगा अब henceforth, तो उसमें there will be a column which will say that you may take this credit. May means you may, you may not. You have to decide whether you are eligible or not. We are not saying anything from portal side. That will be one thing. There will be other credits where they may say that you are not entitled to this credit and you cannot take those credits. Now that whether you are entitled or not, that will not come from basic section 16. It is coming from a different perspective. Section 16 kya tha? You are entitled to credit if you are using the supply for your business. If you have received the document, you have received the goods, if the tax has been paid, you are entitled to credit. That was the basic thing. Now section 38 is going beyond that. It is saying that firstly, the act itself is not fixing everything. They are giving power to the board. If the GSTR 1 is not filed within specified period from the date of registration, let us say I took registration and मैंने एक महीना रिटर्न नहीं फाइल किया, 2 महीने के बाद फाइल किया. Section 38 is not prescribing any period as of now, which means field is left open to the board कि वो 1 महीना होगा, 2 महीना होगा, 3 महीना होगा, whatever period they decide. If the GSTR 1 is not filed within that period and it is filed subsequently, 3 महीने बाद उसने रिटर्न फाइल किया, you will not get your credit. वहां पे लिख के आ जाएगा you are not entitled. Second, it could be supplier continues to default in tax payment. उसने एक बार किया, दूसरी बार किया, तीसरी बार, वहां ये हो सकता है. If the GSTR 1 liability exceeds GSTR 3B payment, so GSTR 1 में उन्होंने 10 लाख लिखा, GSTR 3B भरते समय उनको ध्यान में आया कि अरे गलती से 1 0 लग गया था, तो 1 लाख पे कर दिया 3B में. कस्टमर्स की क्रेडिट ब्लॉक हो जाएगी एंड देयर इज नो वे टू फाइंड आउट कि कौन से कस्टमर का वो टैक्स नहीं भरा है उसने, बिकॉज टैक्स इज कंसोलिडेटेड, इट इज नॉट पेड इनवॉइस वाइज. सो हर किसी का क्रेडिट ब्लॉक हो जाएगा. तो आई डोंट नो कि वो हर लोग, सारे लोग मिलजुल करके कैसे उसके पास अप्रोच करेंगे और किस तरह से इसको सेटल करेंगे, बट एवरीबडी विल लूज क्रेडिट. सी दिस विल बी ओनली अ क्लरिकल एरर. और अपने वागले स्टेट में कई लोगों का पिछले 2-3 सालों में इस तरह की एरर हुई है, जहां पे कि गलती से एक आध फिगर ज्यादा आ गया. और जैसे कि यहीं पे है सामने, अभी आई कैन टेक नेम, बट 1,22,000 के आसपास की क्रेडिट थी, वो 2 जो है वो रिपीट हो गया. सो इट बिकेम 12,22,000 समथिंग. एंड नाउ स्क्रूटनी में उसको उसका इंटरेस्ट मांगा जा रहा है. शी पेड इट इन द वेरी नेक्स्ट मंथ. शी रियलाइज की गलती हो गई है, उनको 24% इंटरेस्ट चाहिए. 24% के रेट पे चाहिए, रेट पे चाहिए. सो 2%. नहीं, आई कम टू दैट. एक्चुअली आज तक आईटीसी के ऊपर इंटरेस्ट का कोई लॉ ही नहीं था. दे वर मेकिंग अ मिस्टेक. इस बजट में वो लॉ आया है. So and it has now come from retrospective effect. 1st July से आया है. So we had talked about that earlier. So if the supplier has availed excess credit, now just imagine what is this. You purchased goods from somebody and government alleges that that somebody has availed excess credit, which means he was entitled to a credit of rupees 1 lakh. He has availed credit of 2 lakhs and he has used that 2 lakhs to pay your tax, and therefore you are not entitled to it. So you have to plan how you are going to make your purchases. How will you know that your supplier has taken excess credit? Government is saying that we will inform you through this return. Through this GSTR 2B, they will say that they have taken excess credit, you don't take credit. So I find that there is only one solution, that सबके जीएसटी का पैसा 2-3 महीना रोक के रखना चाहिए. जीएसटी का पैसा नहीं देना चाहिए उतना. That is only possible if आप हाँ सबका रोक के रखेंगे. पूरी कंट्री में सारे बिजनेसमैन एक दूसरे से झगड़ा करेंगे. No, we had asked for this. TSSIA ने ये प्रेजेंटेशन में दिया था. We had asked. हाँ. That you allow me to pay against his invoice. हाँ, but वहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रहा है कि how to adjust his ITC, वो इशू आता है. But still हमारे लिए तो सेफ हो जाता है ना. बिल्कुल देना ही पड़ेगा. So one, if the supplier has availed excess credit, then this GSTR 2B will say that you cannot avail credit. And then there could be any other reason that the government may specify, which means कि अब फ्यूचर में ये लिस्ट लंबी होते जा सकती है. There is new section 41. ये इसलिए जरूरत पड़ गई कि सेक्शन 41 पहले कहता था कि your credits will be provisional. It was provisional because there was a concept of matching. तो जब तक मैच होकर के फाइनल नहीं होता तब तक वो प्रोविजनल था. Now it is no more provisional. So ITC is now self-assessed, and if the supplier has not paid tax, you have to pay it along with interest. That is what the section now says. So now the court's judgment will not apply. Madras High Court का जो Beetle Enterprises वाला judgment था, now that will not apply anymore. Now it is the law. that if he has not paid tax, you don't get the credit.
So the onus is not there on the government to get the money from the supplier, I mean from the.
See, how do you enforce that onus? Question ye hai. Will I file a writ petition saying that government should be directed to recover money from that party? It is, of course it is. But वो ड्यूटी आपको ट्रांसफर कर रहे हैं. अब तो देखिए लॉ में जो भी लिखा है प्रैक्टिकली क्या हो रहा है.
उसका ये स्टॉप हो जाएगा. नॉट पेइंग, वो जीएसटी नंबर ब्लॉक हो जाएगा,
वो दूसरा लेगा ना.
बट एटलीस्ट वो तो अपने सेटिस्फैक्शन में नहीं हो.
हाँ
प्रीवियस केसेस में
हाँ
चल रहा था, वो केसेस में
करेक्ट. राइट. अब जो आप अगर स्टेट ऑफिस में पर्टिकुलरली जाएंगे, सेंट्रल में तो इट इज कंपैरेटिवली इजियर फॉर स्टेट सेंट्रल ऑफिसर्स टू एक्सप्लेन द लीगल प्रोविजंस. लाइन आ रहा है? नहीं, अच्छा स्क्रीन पे आ रहा है क्या? सो बट स्टेट ऑफिस में अगर आप जाते हैं ना, इट इज एक्सट्रीमली डिफिकल्ट टू एक्सप्लेन एनी प्रोविजन टू एन ऑफिसर. उनको आप मतलब आपको 1-1.5 घंटा लगेगा कोई एक छोटी सी चीज समझने में, बिकॉज दे डोंट रीड. हाँ, they don't read.
We had been to the Sanjay last week. So it was quite the same. If you have any like this issue, and let us know that they will.
Your best example, I will say, best example, आप उनका कोई भी शोकॉज नोटिस उठा लीजिए. आप 100 शोकॉज नोटिस उठाइए, read it and try to explain कि what is the issue. You will never be able to find out. आप सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट में सेंट्रल एक्साइज डिपार्टमेंट शोकॉज नोटिसेस इशू करने में उस्ताद रहा है, ठीक है, और डिटेल्ड नोटिसेस देते हैं. एटलीस्ट दे से बेसिक स्टोरी नरेट करते हैं कि ओके दिस इज योर बिजनेस, दिस इज व्हाट यू हैव डन, दिस इज द लीगल प्रोविजन एंड देयरफॉर इट अपीयर्स दैट यू हैव कॉन्ट्रावेंट these laws and this is the action that we are proposing. ये इतना बेसिक है. You will not find this in the now DRC1 जो स्टेट ऑफिस इशू कर रही है. उसमें मतलब मेनी टाइम्स आई हैव टू सेंड अ पर्सन टू द ऑफिसर टू आस्क कि सर प्रॉब्लम क्या हो बताइए. इसमें सीधा एक अमाउंट आता है, यू पे सो मच. व्हाई आई शुड पे सो मच, वी डोंट नो. सो ऐसी नोटिसेस, मतलब नोटिस छोड़िए, ऑर्डर्स ऐसे आ रहे हैं, ऑर्डर्स आ रहे हैं जहां पे वी गेव अ डिटेल्ड रिप्लाई. अपना जीवन भाटिया के केस में किया हमने, 12-15 पेज का डिटेल रिप्लाई लिखा. उसने उस रिप्लाई को रेफर भी नहीं किया, उसके एक लाइन के ऊपर कमेंट नहीं किया है. सिंपली यू पे सो मच, दैट्स ऑल, दैट इज द ऑर्डर. व्हाई आई शुड पे सो मच, नोबडी नोस. So far as this ITC provision is concerned, they are very clear that if somebody has not paid tax, and not paid tax कैसे मालूम पड़ता है उनको, खाली 2B में नहीं दिखा तो not paid tax, that's all. मतलब फॉर एग्जाम्पल उसने B2B ट्रांजेक्शन को B2C में डाल दिया, तो उसका टोटल टर्नओवर टैक्स्ड है, टैक्स उसने पे कर दिया है, बट उसने B2C में लिख दिया था. But even that is amounting to not payment of tax. That is how it is being viewed. If supplier pays the tax later, we can claim the credit back. That is the new provision. Now, this provision is not talking about time limit. कि वो नवंबर वाला time limit फिर लगेगा क्या, जो अभी तक सितंबर था. So वो clarity आने में time शायद जाएगा. Now, section 16(2) जो रेड फॉन्ट वाला है, ये नई चीजें आई हैं. So these were the earlier conditions, that we should possess the document, we should have received the goods and or the service, the supplier should have paid the tax. That was a condition there, but that condition was even in central excise, and in central excise up to Supreme Court it was settled that invoice is the proof of payment of tax. It is not that you have to actually go and find out in his return and his TR6 challans. That was not the case. Now invoice is no more the proof of payment of tax. In central excise, that was a thinking, because if somebody has issued an invoice, then he has taken the liability over himself. That was the belief. Now that is no more the case. जबकि अब ट्रांसपेरेंसी ज्यादा हो गया, अब तो किसी को पकड़ लेना इजी है, इसके बावजूद अब गवर्नमेंट पीछे क्यों हट रही है, आई डोंट नो. अब तो इतना आसान हो गया कि उसने इनवॉइस लिखा है, इनवॉइस बनाया है, उसका जीएसटी नंबर है, उसका एड्रेस आपके पास है, आपने आधार ऑथेंटिकेशन कर रखा है, इसके बाद आप उससे क्यों नहीं टैक्स वसूल करते हैं? एंड व्हाई यू आर आस्किंग समवन एल्स टू पे? So new conditions, that invoice should appear in GSTR 2B, and the GSTR should 2B should not restrict it. तो पहले मैंने सेक्शन 38 इसीलिए रीड किया, वहां पे रेस्ट्रिक्ट करने का एक क्लॉज दिया है. तो दोज रीजंस जो हमने लिस्ट आउट किया. Then reference to 43A is removed because 43A itself is deleted. Dates, these dates have been enhanced, so this is a good thing. एक महीने का एक्चुअली एक्सटेंशन नहीं. पहले सितंबर का रिटर्न आप फाइल करेंगे तब तक आपको आईटीसी लेने का राइट था. सो लेट अस से ईयर 2021, उसका क्रेडिट सितंबर 21 का रिटर्न फाइल करने की लास्ट डेट, दैट वाज द वर्ड यूज्ड, दैट वाज 20th October. सो इफ यू फाइल्ड योर रिटर्न ऑन 21st October, यू वर नॉट एंटाइटल्ड. तो वो कॉम्प्लिकेटेड लैंग्वेज को हटा करके अब it is 30th November now, which means 20th November will be the last date of filing return. If you're filing it on 30th, still you are entitled, although there is a delay of 10 days in filing the returns. November return, right. अभी तक सितंबर का रिटर्न था, now it becomes return of October. So virtually आपको 40 days एक्स्ट्रा मिला, या एक महीना मिल गया, ऐसा सोचिए. Then same is the date for uploading credit notes, and same is also the date for rectification of errors in GSTR 1. So GSTR 1 में आपने इनवॉइस नंबर गलत लिखा, टैक्स का अमाउंट गलत लिखा, तो आगे जाके आप अमेंड कर सकते हैं नेक्स्ट रिटर्न फाइल करते समय. तो उसके लिए भी 30th November becomes the last date. रिफ्लेक्ट हो जाता है, करेक्ट हो जाता है. देन जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल करने के लिए बहुत सारे प्रोविजंस हैं सेक्शन 29 में, बहुत सारे सिचुएशंस हैं. उसमें से एक चेंज है, इट इज अ माइनर चेंज. अभी तक ये था कि अगर आपने कंटिन्यूअस 6 महीने रिटर्न नहीं फाइल किया तो आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हो सकता था. अब बोर्ड ने कहा कि वो कितने महीने होगा वो हम डिसाइड करेंगे. सो नाउ सच टैक्स पीरियड एज मे बी प्रिस्क्राइब्ड, इसका मतलब इतना ही होता है कि बोर्ड विल से कि कितना महीने. कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर के लिए ये एक अच्छा हो गया. उनके लिए था कि भाई आपने 3 रिटर्न नहीं फाइल किए तो कैंसिल हो जाएगा. अब वो हो गया कि पूरे साल का रिटर्न 3 महीना अगर लेट हो गया. देन ओके, GSTR 1 Act is now empowering government to prescribe conditions and restrictions. इसके पहले ये दोनों वर्ड उधर नहीं थे. आप GSTR 1 फाइल करते समय कोई कंडीशन नहीं थी, कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं था, एवरी इनवॉइस आप डिक्लेयर कर सकते थे. अब इस तरह का भी राइट हो गया, ले लिया है कि उसमें भी हम कंडीशन लगा सकते हैं. Which means tomorrow there can be a situation where you have issued an invoice, you will be asked to pay tax and not upload it on the GSTR on the portal, because they can impose restriction. That is what they are saying. Maybe they will say that okay, you have to mark that it is under restricted category. That could be. It also empowers the government to prescribe conditions and restrictions for communicating it to the recipient. जो हमने already section 38 में देखा, वो चीज यहाँ भी आई है. and then last date for rectification 30th November, right? If GSTR1 is not filed for one period, then next वाला आप नहीं फाइल कर सकते। और इसमें बोर्ड ने अपने पास एक अच्छा पावर लिया है कि एक नहीं फाइल हुआ फिर भी हम अगला फाइल करना अलाउ कर सकते हैं, हम उनके पास ये पावर है। 3B cannot be filed if GSTR1 has not been filed. This was actually practically यही था, उसको लॉ में ला दिया। सेक्शन 49 ये एक अजीब चीज की गई है। सेक्शन 49 इज अबाउट आप जो टैक्स पेमेंट करते हैं आइदर थ्रू कैश लेजर और क्रेडिट लेजर, उसमें कहा जा रहा है कि गवर्नमेंट कैन ब्रिंग रिस्ट्रिक्शंस इन यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ आईटीसी। सो अभी एक रिस्ट्रिक्शन लाया गया था, एक सेक्शन आया था आई थिंक 86B, रूल 86B, जहाँ पे ये था कि 1% आपको एटलीस्ट कैश में से भरना है। तो उसके करस्पॉन्डिंग एक्ट में कोई बैकिंग नहीं थी, गवर्नमेंट को पावर नहीं था ये करने का। तो सम पीपल वेंट टू कोर्ट सेइंग दैट कौन सी अथॉरिटी से आप ये कर रहे हो। सो दैट पावर हैज नाउ बीन टेकन, एंड विच मीन्स कि गवर्नमेंट ये कह सकती है कि भाई यहाँ से आप एटलीस्ट 10% तो कैश में भरना ही भरना है, whatever percent that board decides. Then एक अच्छा प्रोविजन आया, अगर आपका 2 स्टेट में रजिस्ट्रेशन है, 2 से ज्यादा स्टेट में रजिस्ट्रेशन है, तो एक स्टेट के कैश लेजर में जो पैसा है आप उसको दूसरे स्टेट में ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं, प्रोवाइडेड आपके लायबिलिटी रजिस्टर में कोई लायबिलिटी ना हो। अगर कोई लायबिलिटी है तो नहीं कर सकते आप, उसको रिफंड माना जाएगा। आप इस स्टेट में मान लिया जाएगा कि आपने रिफंड ले लिया और दूसरे स्टेट में आपने कैश लेजर में डिपॉजिट कर दिया। देन अगेन गवर्नमेंट गेट्स राइट टू प्रिस्क्राइब मैक्सिमम लायबिलिटी दैट कुड बी डिस्चार्ज, ऑलरेडी डिस्कस किया हमने। यस, सेक्शन 50 में फ्रॉम द वेरी बिगिनिंग देयर वाज अ लैक्यूना। सेक्शन 50 में 3 सबसेक्शंस हैं, 1 और 2। इट टॉक्स अबाउट इंटरेस्ट ऑन योर tax liability. So if I am issuing an invoice and I am liable to pay tax on that invoice, and if I delay, then 18% tax is payable, interest is payable. Subsection 3, it spoke about input tax credit, लेकिन उसमें क्या लिखा था, अगर उस पूरे क्लॉज को ध्यान से कोई पढ़ता तो उसमें लिखा था कि अगर 4210 या 4310 वाली मिस्टेक आपने की तो 24% लगेगा। अब वो 4210 और 4310 क्या था? ओरिजिनली जीएसटीआर 2 में ये मैकेनिज्म आया था कि मैं अपना लायबिलिटी, अपना जीएसटीआर 1 फाइल करूंगा तो आपके 2 में दिखाई देगा। देन 2 में आपने अमेंडमेंट प्रपोज कर दिया और मैंने उसको एक्सेप्ट कर लिया तो फाइन, एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर लिया तो एक सर्टेन पीरियड के बाद आप वापस उसको अपवर्ड रिवाइज कर सकते थे और अपनी क्रेडिट आप ले सकते थे। इट मीन्स कि सामने वाला नहीं मान रहा है, फिर भी मेरे पास इनवॉइस है, मैं कह रहा हूं मैं तो इतनी क्रेडिट लूंगा। इसके बाद कहा गया कि अब अगर इसके बाद पाया गया कि आपकी इनवॉइस गलत थी, इनवॉइस में तो उतना फिगर था ही नहीं और आपने जानबूझ करके एक्स्ट्रा क्रेडिट ले ली, देन आपको 24% होगा। सो इट वाज अ स्पेशल सर्कमस्टेंस। नाउ वो 42 43 का मैकेनिज्म कभी आया ही नहीं, सो देयर वाज नो ओकेजन वेयर सेक्शन 53 कुड बी अप्लाइड। एंड इसके बियॉन्ड आईटीसी के ऊपर कोई प्रोविजन था ही नहीं। So every officer who was demanding interest on ITC, he used to read that section 53, but he used to stop before reading that 4210 and 4310. वहां तक वो नहीं पढ़ते थे। 42 के पहले जो कुछ लिखा था उतना पढ़ करके वो इंटरेस्ट मांग लेते थे। So there were several cases where people said that look, you don't have a, how can you interest? And some officer went to the extent of saying that section 73 is saying that I can demand due tax, interest and penalty, and therefore I'm demanding interest. So that was not the correct interpretation, because section 73, for example, it does not create a tax liability. Tax liability arises because the section 9 was there, and there section 73 is only a procedure to demand tax. It is not, it does not create the tax liability. So ultimately government realized कि ये अपना officers group में हुआ है, ये चेन्नई वाले group में. This was discussed in detail, हमने डाला था. So everybody accepted that yes, ultimately this has to be rectified. So now government has brought in a retrospective amendment with effect from 1st July 2017. Wrong ITC लिया तो उसके ऊपर interest payable है. Act में they have said that interest can be up to 24%, but they have made it 18% by way of a notification. So interest on ITC will be 18%, wrong ITC, and then taken and utilized word hai. It is not taken or utilized. So if you take the credit and reverse it, no interest. If you take the credit and utilize it, and then subsequently you reverse it, then interest is payable. Now there will be issues about what do you mean by utilization of the credit. How do you prove that credit has been utilized? For example, in the month of July 2017, let us say I claimed credit of rupees 50,000, which is now held to be a wrong credit. And ever since that date, July 17 से लेके आज तक मेरे पास हमेशा बैलेंस में 50,000 रुपीज से ज्यादा था. So can it be said that I have not utilized that credit? Now this is one way that taxpayers do present their case. कि भाई जुलाई 17 में मैंने 50,000 लिया, आज तक मेरे पास वो 50,000 पड़ा हुआ है, उससे ज्यादा पड़ा हुआ है, तो मैंने कब यूज कर लिया? This is one way of saying. The other way of looking at it is you have to adopt first in first out method. So whatever credits were taken first, those were utilized first. So आज जो बचा हुआ है वो latest credit है, वो पुरानी credit नहीं है. So there was a point in time when you actually utilized it. इस section में अभी ये लिखा गया है कि government will prescribe a method of determining this amount, whether it has the credit has been utilized or not. So we'll have to wait as to what they prescribe. I think that is all we have covered. Right. Okay. 2 slides on customs. GST में इसके अलावा और कोई change नहीं है और कुछ नहीं है. There are a few retrospective exemptions. वो सबके काम की चीज नहीं है. Customs में. हाँ. They have made a plan कि इतनी exemption पहले खत्म करना है, उसके इतने महीने बाद इतने exemptions खत्म करने हैं. So
this is something very difficult. They are taking one hand, giving other hand.
We'll come to that. Just मेरी 2 slide है, खत्म कर दूं. 2 ही slides हैं. हाँ. So all unconditional exemptions are being incorporated in the tariff itself. इसका reason इतना ही होता है. अगर आप tariff देखेंगे, custom tariff देखेंगे, तो chapter headings लिखी रहती हैं. उसके आगे के पहले column में weight या measurement का column होता है, kg, meter, liter, etc. And next column में there is a basic custom duty. Now that basic custom duty usually it is much higher than the actual duties that are being charged. So for example, at many places you will find कि वहाँ पे 25% लिखा हुआ है और real में tax 10% charge हो रहा है. तो ये कैसे हो रहा है? तो tariff में 25% लिखा है और उसके बाद there is a notification which exempts it. तो जब तक टैरिफ में 25% लिखा रहेगा तब तक इस एग्जम्पशन नोटिफिकेशन की जरूरत रहेगी अगर मुझे 25% से कम पे करना है। सो ये क्यों रखा जाता है? ताकि बोर्ड को टाइम टू टाइम टैक्स रेट कम ज्यादा करने का पावर रहे, एंड दिस इज अ गुड मेथड। उसको बार बार पार्लियामेंट नहीं जाना पड़ता, लेकिन ओवर द पीरियड ऐसा हो जाता है कि अब हमें बहुत सालों से लगातार 10% ही है, एंड नाउ वी नो दैट वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू मेक इट 25%। तो उस एक नोटिफिकेशन को खत्म किया जा सकता है अगर मैं यहाँ पे 25 की जगह पे 10 लिख। तो दैट इज हाउ सेवरल नोटिफिकेशंस विल गो. All the exemptions will be now incorporated in the tariff itself, which means the actual upper slab itself will become 10%. So 10% मैंने example के लिए बोला, it is not okay. And ये एक अच्छा चीज है जो सबके काम का है। कई बार जब हम लोग import करते हैं तो end use based exemptions होते हैं कि आप अगर ये चीज इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं एंड इफ यू आर गोइंग टू यूज इट इन मैन्युफैक्चर ऑफ अ मोबाइल फोन, देन एग्जेम्पशन होगा या लोअर रेट होगा, कंसेशन होगा। तो हाउ टू एंश्योर दैट यू आर एक्चुअली गोइंग टू यूज इट फॉर मोबाइल फोन्स? तो उसके लिए मेथड ये दिया गया था कि इनिशियली यू हैव टू अप्रोच योर लोकल ऑफिस। बहुत पहले इट वाज एक्साइज ऑफिस एंड देन इट बिकेम कस्टम्स ऑफिस। उस ऑफिस में आपको जाकर के रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना पड़ता था, एक डिक्लेरेशन देना पड़ता था जिसमें सारा डिटेल आता था कि व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू इंपोर्ट, फॉर व्हाट पर्पस, व्हाट विल बी द वैल्यू, व्हाट विल बी द डिफरेंस इन टैक्स। वो फॉर्म एक कॉपी साइन करवा करके कस्टम में पोर्ट में भेजना पड़ता था और उसके अगेंस्ट वो आपको एग्जेम्पशन देता था। नाउ दैट प्रोसेस बहुत इजी कर दी गई है। अच्छा, ये प्रॉब्लम इसमें ये हो रही थी कि अधिकतर जगह पे लोकल ऑफिसर को ये पता नहीं होता था कि ऐसा कोई प्रोसीजर है। उसकी वजह से उनको प्रोसीजर समझाना, और फिर जब समझाते थे तो उनको ट्रस्ट नहीं आता था। वो कहते थे कि भाई आप तो कुछ भी बोलोगे, हाउ इट कैन बी सो इजी। सो और फिर अगर हम डॉक्यूमेंट सब ला करके और एक्ट और नोटिफिकेशन पढ़ाना चालू करें तो दे वर नॉट रेडी टू रीड इट। गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत सिंपल कर दिया अभी। What they are saying is that there will be an online form. It will be transmitted to both the authorities. It will go to customs, it will go to your authority, and exemption will not require any permission from anybody.
Exemption is not required.
Permission is not required. So इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि अगर आप किसी ऑफिसर को लगता है कि मैंने गलत एग्जेम्पशन ले लिया, देन ओनर्स विल बी ऑन हिम टू रेज अ डिमांड, बट मेरे गुड्स हेल्ड अप नहीं होंगे। दैट इज द ग्रेट थिंग। ये बहुत अच्छा काम हुआ है
इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में तो बहुत।
हाँ, दूसरा कि ऐसा होता है कि इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में से एग्जेम्पशन बहुत है, राइट? हाँ, और दूसरा ये इशू होता है कई बार कि मैंने 100 पीसेस इंपोर्ट किए, उसमें से 90 पीसेस मेरे यूज हो गए राइट प्लेस पे, 10 पीस नहीं हो पाया, तो मुझे वो 10 पीस का ड्यूटी भरना पड़ता है। वो ड्यूटी भरने के लिए आज तक का जो मैकेनिज्म है वो ये है कि यू हैव टू फिजिकली प्रिपेयर अ चालान, यू हैव टू गो टू द कस्टम ऑफिसर, गेट हिज सिग्नेचर ऑन इट एंड देन मेक द पेमेंट। ऑनलाइन का कोई सिस्टम ही नहीं था इतने साल बीतने के बावजूद, तो इसमें वो ऑनलाइन कर दिया गया। So I think that's all. एक स्लाइड और क्या है? Yes, this is very good. हाँ, एक जो है वैल्यूएशन नॉर्म को और गवर्नमेंट टाइट कर रही है। ये बेसिकली हमको ये समझना होगा कि अगर हम किसी ऐसी कंट्री से इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं जहां पे कि देयर इज एन एग्रीमेंट विद दैट कंट्री for a concessional rate, तो biggest issue आता है कि whether the goods are originating in that country. That is one part. Second, जहाँ पे कि related parties हैं वहाँ पे values का issue आता है। So दोनों जगह आता है, income tax में आता है और customs में आता है। Customs person always wants the highest value. Income tax person always wants the lowest value. Income tax में it is your expense. Customs में you have to pay custom duty on that. So ये tussle वहाँ रहती है और most of the time दोनों अलग-अलग operate करते हैं और अपने-अपने values fix कर रहे होते हैं. और custom department में although there is a full-fledged cell for that, but एक valuation determine होने में 4 साल 5 साल ऐसे निकल जाते हैं. I think transfer pricing बहुत fast है comparatively. यहाँ पे there is a one full office है बॉम्बे में, special valuation branch है, but it doesn't happen. And ठीक है, ऊपर से लेन-देन सब है. Okay, so we are final, we are through it. अब आपके कुछ questions हो, कोई भी questions हो तो आप पूछ सकते हैं.
Last few days, the custom has stopped generating the scrolls. Grant of road tax electronic trading agents for the exporters.
ठीक है. That is only a temporary matter. They have done it for since past few days. So it is not a policy decision. It is not a permanent thing. ये वापस शुरू हो जाएगा. स्क्रॉल जनरेट नहीं होगा तब तक आप सेल नहीं कर पाएंगे, बट दैट इज अ टेम्पररी मैटर. हाँ, उसमें एक लेजर बनाया जा रहा है. उस लेजर में आप ऑनलाइन पोस्टिंग कर सकते हैं कि मैंने इनको सेल किया, आपके लेजर में वहाँ पे एंट्री आ जाएगी, तो ऑनलाइन दिखाई देगा कि आपने किसको सेल किया. हाँ, मनी का पेमेंट उस पोर्टल के थ्रू नहीं होगा, आपका अलग होगा. आप जैसे जीएसटी रिटर्न फाइल करते हैं, इनवॉइस अपलोड करते हैं, लेकिन पैसा आपको बैंक के थ्रू आता है ना, अलग से आता है. दिस इज टेम्पररी थिंग. ये सॉर्ट आउट हो जाएगा.
पर्पस मॉल और वहां जाते हैं तो किसी को रोकते क्या हुआ, डेप्यूटी कमिश्नर को भी मालूम नहीं होगा. ये लोग
हो गए नोटिफिकेशन इशूड है. So they are going to revise it because उस पर बहुत ह्यू एंड क्राई है कि ये रेट ठीक नहीं है. हाँ, और अगर रिवाइज होगा तो इट विल बी रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव. वो आएगा 1 जनवरी के से इफेक्टिव हो जाएगा लास्ट ईयर से.
टाइम लिमिट नहीं है.
क्या चीज?
ये क्रेडिट लेजर जो है बनाया, उसके लिए कोई टाइम लिमिट नहीं है कि आई हैव टू जस्ट यूज माय अकाउंट.
नो, द लेजर विल नॉट एक्सपायर. इट विल कंटिन्यू.
दूसरा एक सब सवाल है, लोग ने ये बिल जो है अमेंडमेंट के लिए देते हैं. I went 3-4 times to the custom. I don't know how many times again I have to go for it. Even we have increased the price and we bring a more foreign exchange. Naturally, officers who are there, they don't know ABC of this sometimes subject and now you know that entire department. And now it has gone to the joint commissioner level.
See, कैसा है? Section 139 कस्टम्स में सेक्शन 139 ये कहता है कि शिपिंग बिल कैन बी अमेंडेड ओनली ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ एग्जिस्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट. एग्जिस्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट का मतलब द डॉक्यूमेंट विच वाज एग्जिस्टिंग एट द टाइम ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट. एनी डॉक्यूमेंट विच कम्स इनटू एग्जिस्टेंस लेटर, उसके बेसिस पर शिपिंग बिल अमेंड नहीं हो सकती.
सबमिट कर दिया.
करेक्ट है.
टेक्निकल एरर, मिस्टेक्स. Instead of taking I have to put $100. Now it happens. So it has gone to the joint commissioner. Very small amount.
अच्छा, तो अगर ऐसा है ना कि अगर डॉक्यूमेंट उस समय एग्जिस्ट कर रहा था, तो they will do it.
The purchase order of the party now parties are so big. They don't release like a small scale cleaner in their new purchase order. No. So that
नहीं, बट ये ऑफिसर की ड्यूटी है टू एग्जामिन दैट देयर वाज अ डॉक्यूमेंट एग्जिस्टिंग एट दैट पर्टिकुलर टाइम. इफ देयर वाज नो डॉक्यूमेंट, देन शिपिंग बिल का अमेंडमेंट विल नॉट बी.
But if the document submitted purchase order, ship.
नहीं डॉक्यूमेंट बाद का डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं,
हाँ,
उस डेट का डॉक्यूमेंट।
हाँ, वही डेट का जब आपने अमेंडमेंट के लिए फाइल किया, it has gone to the joint
जब आपने शिपिंग बिल फाइल किया उस डेट का डॉक्यूमेंट, नॉट द अमेंडमेंट।
और इनवॉइस भी है और उसका पेमेंट भी आया है, वो भी एक है, और ईडीआरसी भी इशू है और बैंक ने भी दे दिया है, सब ओके, बट ऑन द एक्सेस अमाउंट that has gone to the joint commission. That's what CHA told me. I have not seen it. So what is the role of joint commissioner in such a complex?
Since it is an excess amount है तो आपका only issue could be some benefit under foreign trade policy.
Okay.
There cannot be, हाँ, there cannot be any question from the bank क्योंकि पैसा आने वाला है, जा नहीं रहा है ना, तो फॉरेन ट्रेड का कोई मतलब फेमा का कोई इश्यू नहीं आने वाला है आपको। मैनुअल ठीक है, तो अगर अमेंडमेंट करने के लिए if the officer is asking for a document, he is right in doing that, because नहीं, that logic is different। हाँ बोलिए नहीं।
regarding GST. In 1920,
मुझे 1920 ओके, हाँ, फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर मुझे याद आ गया। हाँ जी, हाँ जी,
person was known to me, and subsequently he told me he has no money, but he's paying. He paid GST over a period of time along with parents interest. I did not get any credit on that GST. Government is not paying me credit, and I'm
अच्छा, तो आप जो कह रहे हैं कि आपको क्रेडिट नहीं मिली, यू आर सेइंग कि आपके जीएसटीआर 2A में वो दिखाई नहीं देगा, दैट इज द ओनली थिंग, राइट?
संजय भाई, आई हैड वन क्वेश्चन।
एक मिनट पारस जी, एक क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे है, मैं उसको रिजॉल्व कर लूं।
फाइन फाइन,
हाँ, या प्लीज। May 21. Okay. So he right. So we are not entitled to the credit. So see, okay. Section 16(4). It imposed a condition that unless he pays tax, we are not entitled to credit. But Section 16(4) nowhere said that he has to report it in GSTR1 before this particular date. Okay. Now, ITC will be controlled by Section 16 and not by Section 37 or 38 or 39. Okay. See, this is a legal argument that you can take. So since you are a CA, you will understand this. So ITC is not to be controlled by Section 37, 38, 39. It will be controlled by 16, 17, 18 maybe. Section 16 nowhere has this provision. बाद में अभी आया कि भाई आपका 2B में या 2A में दिखाई देना चाहिए, पहले ऐसा कोई प्रोविजन नहीं था। तो आपने जब क्रेडिट लिया उस समय, अच्छा, you have not taken the credit. Oh. And have you reported in GSTR 9 that I have not taken credit? Understand? As of now, yeah, you can record. I think it is getting recorded. It is getting recorded. As of now, see, okay. Whatever credits you took in 1920, only you have the list of invoices, right? have a freedom of saying that I have already taken credit against that number. And postpone one invoice to the next financial year. What's the point? It is in your mind that you have not taken credit. It is only in your mind. Who knows that you have not taken credit? इसमें बात करते हैं, ठीक है? बात कर, बताता। Yes, पारस जी।
हाँ संजय भाई, मेरा क्वेश्चन ऐसा था कि अभी जैसे दिसंबर महीने में कुछ गुड्स इन ट्रांजिट है, तो ऑब्वियसली मेरे यहाँ अकाउंट, अपने यहाँ अकाउंट फॉर नहीं होएगा।
बराबर।
I won't receive the material, so I won't be claiming any ITC for the month of December in respect of those bills. So now the supplier has already filed its GSTR1 of December,
and therefore it is there in the 2B.
So it is there in the GSTR1 of the GSTR2A of the December month, but it won't be available in GSTR2B when I am accounting for. So how the credit to be taken for this?
So you have to take credit only after you receive the goods.
Agree, but in GSTR2B there won't be any matching credit. Huh?
No. We can take credit only after we receive the goods. We have to fulfill all conditions of Section 16. So there will be a mismatch with 2B. That
but whether they will allow to claim this, but whether system will allow.
Yes.
Because now, as you are saying, over and above GSTR 2B credit, we can't claim.
Right. In fact, अभी तो आप जब GSTR 3B फाइल करते हैं,
हाँ जी,
तो वहाँ पे स्क्रीन पे दिखाई देता है कि अगर आपका 2B से 3B में जो क्रेडिट है 10% से ज्यादा मिसमैच है, तो योर रजिस्ट्रेशन इज लायबल टू बी कैंसल्ड, ऐसा वहाँ पे लिख के आता है।
करेक्ट है। नहीं, लेकिन अभी जो ये नया प्रोविजन जो चालू होएगा जनवरी से, जिसका अपन रिटर्न 20 फेब को भरेंगे।
करेक्ट है।
उसमें तो जैसा अभी अपन डिस्कस
मत करिए, क्या होगा आज आपके केस में होगा, बिल्कुल होगा। सो वी विल गो टू हाई कोर्ट अगर ऐसा हुआ, एंड इफ दे वांट टू कैंसिल द रजिस्ट्रेशन।
क्योंकि मेरा तो बाइंग जो है रिलायंस से होता है, तो इट इज ह्यूज अमाउंट।
आई अंडरस्टैंड आपका टर्नओवर बड़ा है, तो आपके केस में ये पक्का हो जाएगा। And if this happens and if somebody threatens, because वो लॉ में भी लिख रहे हैं कि 2B से आपने 10% ज्यादा ले लिया तो हम कैंसिल कर देंगे रजिस्ट्रेशन, but then 10%
कैंसिल कर देंगे, that is okay, that we can fight on, but whether they will allow to file the return with this credit or not?
They will allow. Yes.
मतलब GSTR 2B में जो लाइबिलिटी, जो क्रेडिट दिख रही है,
क्या होगा कि आपको बार-बार मजगांव जाना पड़ेगा।
वो तो जाएंगे, पैसा कंपनी देगी ना।
तो बनाएंगे, रिप्लाई बनाएंगे, चिंता मत करिए।
एक दिन का पेड हॉलीडे हो जाएगा।
हाँ जी, ठीक है। क्रेडिट हम ले सकेंगे, कोई प्रॉब्लम
ले सकेंगे ना।
हाँ।
वही मेरा कंसर्न था एक्चुअली।
हाँ। एनी अदर? अच्छा हाँ, सॉरी, क्वेश्चन ये था, मैंने दिसंबर में गुड्स परचेज किए, लेट अस से कि 30 दिसंबर को इनवॉइस इश्यू हो गई और वो गुड्स मेरे पास जनवरी में पहुंची, तो GSTR 2B दिसंबर के 2B में वो मुझे दिखाई दे रहा है, जबकि गुड्स तो मुझे नेक्स्ट मंथ में मिले हैं। सो आई एम नॉट एंटाइटल्ड टू टेक क्रेडिट। जब तक कि मुझे गुड्स रिसीव नहीं होते तब तक मुझे क्रेडिट नहीं लेना चाहिए। तो 2B में और मेरे 3B में मिसमैच हो जाएगा। जब नेक्स्ट मंथ का मैं क्रेडिट लेने जाऊंगा तो 2B और 3B में मिसमैच हो जाएगा। एंड नाउ दे आर सेइंग इफ द मिसमैच इज बियॉन्ड 10%, नेचुरली आप रिकंसाइल टोटल करेंगे तो हो जाएगा, क्यूमुलेटिवली रिकंसाइल हो जाएगा। लेकिन if somebody wants to match it month to month, it will never. So, but what is happening is the moment you file your return, जैसे सबमिट आप बटन क्लिक करोगे ना, वहां लिख के आता है, हाँ, वार्निंग आती है कि 10% से ज्यादा मिसमैच है, योर रजिस्ट्रेशन बिकम्स लायबल टू बी कैंसिल्ड। वहां डर जाता है कि अगर आप अभी आ गया, अभी तो धीरे धीरे ये चर्चा हो गई है कि नहीं, रिकवरी के लिए नोटिस की क्या जरूरत है। अभी आपने देखा होगा व्हाट्सएप पे घूम रहा था, रिकवरी के लिए नोटिस की क्या क्या जरूरत है, और बहुत सारे ऑफिसर्स भी अब आजकल व्हाट्सएप ही पढ़ रहे हैं, मतलब सो टेंशन तो रहेगी ना। और कैसा है कि उनका टर्नओवर ह्यूज है, दे हैव आई थिंक कितना 1200 करोड़ के आसपास जाता है, उसमें मिसमैच हो गया तो गए। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? राइट, so thank you.
Given a very good presentation, we were खत्म हो जाएगा. We've seen that this and we have learned quite a lot, and thank you, Mr. Ravi, for giving a very elaborate this, and some things have got clear, and in spite of all these things we are supposed to grow, and we have to go to the Amrit Kal. So it is all about, and I think we will do that. So because we have survived till now, we have survived the two pandemics, and I think we are at the tail end of the pandemic. Hopefully there will not be a third or fourth wave. So we have come out all of this, so we should congratulate all of ourselves, and we are sure that we will go ahead. It's a new era for TSSIA also. I have taken over as presidentship from this. So I would like to see more and more participation of all our members, non-members, and you will see that there will be a lot of educative programs we held. Hopefully, we will have a program, we'll have a schedule of programs for the whole year, and we'll see more and more participation from all of you. Thank you once again. Thank my staff for giving a
Yes, I